Saturday, 11th of July, 1942. Dearest Kitty, Father, Mother and Margot still can't get used to the chiming of the Westeroran clock, which tells us the time every quarter of an hour. Not me. I liked it from the start. It sounds so reassuring, especially at night. You can no doubt want to hear what I think about being in hiding. Well, all I can say is, I don't really know yet. I don't think I'll ever feel at home in this house, but that doesn't mean I hate it. It's more like being on holiday in some strange pension. Kind of an odd way of looking at life in hiding, but that's how things are. The annex is an ideal place to hide in. It may be damp and lopsided, but there's probably not a more comfortable hiding place in all of Amsterdam. No, in all of Holland. Up till now, our bedroom with its blank walls was very bare, thanks to Father, who brought my entire postcard and film star collection here beforehand, and to a brush and a pot of glue, I was able to plaster the walls with pictures. It looks much more cheerful. When the Van Daans arrive, we'll be able to build cupboards and other odds and ends out of the wood piled in the attic. Margot and Mother have recovered somewhat. Yesterday, Mother felt well enough to cook split pea soup for the first time. But then she was downstairs talking and forgot all about it. The beans were scorched black, and no amount of scraping could get them out of the pan. Last night, the four of us went down to the private office and listened to England on the wireless. I was so scared someone might hear it that I literally begged Father to take me back upstairs. Mother understood my anxiety and went with me. Whatever we do, we're very afraid the neighbours might hear or see us. We started off immediately the first day sewing curtains. Actually, you can hardly call them that, since they're nothing but scraps of fabric, varying greatly in shape, quality and pattern, which Father and I stitched crookedly together with unskilled fingers. These works of art were tacked to the windows, where they'll stay until we come out of hiding. The building on our right is a branch of the Keg Company, a firm from Zaandam, and on the left is a furniture workshop. Though the people who work there are not on the premises after hours, any sound we make might travel through the walls. We've forbidden Margot to cough at night, even though she has a bad cold, and are giving her large doses of codeine. I'm looking forward to the arrival of the Van Daans, which is set for Tuesday. It'll be much more fun, and also not as quiet. You see, it's the silence that makes me so nervous during the evenings and nights, and I'd give anything to have one of our helpers sleep here. It's not really that bad here, since we can do our own cooking and can listen to the wireless in Daddy's office. Mr. Clement and Miep and Bob and Bet Fotgill too have helped us so much. We've already preserved loads of rhubarb, strawberries and cherries, and so for the time being, I doubt we'll be bored. We also have a supply of reading material, and we're going to buy lots of games. Of course, we can't ever look out the window. I'll go outside. We have to be quiet so the people downstairs can't hear us. Yesterday, we had our hands full. We had to pick 2 crates of cherries for Mr. Kugler to preserve. We're going to use the empty crates to make bookshelves. Someone's calling me. Yours, Anne. And then there's a comment added by Anne on the 28th of September 1942. Not being able to go outside upsets me more than I can say, and I'm terrified our hiding place will be discovered and that will be shot. That, of course, is a fairly dismal prospect. Sunday the 12th of July, 1942. They were all so nice to me a month ago because of my birthday, and yet every day I feel myself drifting further away from Mother and Margot. I worked hard today and they praised me, only to start picking on me again 5 minutes later. You can easily see the difference between the way they deal with Margot and the way that they deal with me. For example, Margot broke the vacuum cleaner, and because of that, we've been out without light for the rest of the day. Mother said, "Well, Margot, it's easy to see that you're not used to working, otherwise you'd have known better than to yank the plug out by the cord." Margot made some reply, and that was the end of the story. But this afternoon, when I wanted to rewrite something on Mother's shopping list because her handwriting is so hard to read, she wouldn't let me. She ticked me off again, and the whole family got involved. I don't fit in with them, and I've felt that clearly in the last few weeks. They're so sentimental together, but I'd rather be sentimental on my own. They're always saying how nice it is with the 4 of us, and that we get along so well, without giving a moment's thought to the fact that I don't feel that way. Daddy's the only one who understands me now and again, though he usually sides with Mother and Margot. Another thing I can't stand is having them talk about me in front of outsiders, telling them how I cried or how sensibly I'm behaving. It's horrible. And sometimes they talk about Morchki, and I can't bear that. Morchki is my weak spot. I miss her every minute of every day, and no one knows how often I think of her. Whenever I do, my eyes fill with tears. Morchki is so sweet, and I love her so much that I keep dreaming she'll come back to us. I have plenty of dreams, but the reality is that we'll have to stay here until the war is over. We can't ever go outside, and the only visitors we have are Miep, her husband Jan, Bep Voschgil, Mr. Voschgil, Mr. Kugler, Mr. Kleiman, and Mrs. Kleiman, though she hasn't come because she thinks it's too dangerous. Comment added by Anne in September of 1942. Daddy's always so nice. He understands me perfectly, and I wish we could have a heart-to-heart talk sometime without bursting instantly into tears. But apparently that has to do with my age. I'd like to spend all my time writing, but that would probably get boring. Up till now, I've only confided my thoughts to my diary. I still haven't got round to writing amusing sketches that I could read aloud at a later date. In the future, I'm going to devote less time to sentimentality and more time to reality. Friday the 14th of August 1942. Dear Kitty, I've deserted you for an entire month, but so little has happened that I can't find a newsworthy item to relate every single day. The Van Daans arrived on the 13th of July. We thought they were coming on the 14th, but from the 13th to the 16th, the Germans were sending out call-up notices right and left and causing a lot of unrest, so they decided it would be safer to leave a day too early than a day too late. Peter Van Daan arrived at 9:30 in the morning while we were still at breakfast. Peter's going on 16. A shy, awkward boy whose company won't amount to much. Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan came half an hour later. Much to our amusement, Mrs. Van Daan was carrying a hat box with a large chamber pot inside. I just don't feel at home without my chamber pot, she explained. And it was the first item to find a permanent place under the divan. Instead of a chamber pot, Mr. Van D was lugging a collapsible tea table under his arm. From the first, we ate our meals together, and after 3 days, it felt as if the 7 of us had become one big family. Naturally, the Van Daans had much to tell us about the week we'd been away from civilization. We were especially interested in what had happened to our flat and Mr. Goldschmidt. Mr. Van Daan filled us in. Monday morning at 9, Mr. Goldschmidt phoned and asked if I could come over. I went straight away and found a very distraught Mr. Goldschmidt. He showed me the note that the Frank family had left behind. As instructed, he was planning to take the cat to the neighbours, which I agreed was a good idea. He was afraid the house was going to be searched, so he went through all the rooms, tidying up here and there and clearing the breakfast things off the table. Suddenly I saw a notepad on Mrs. Frank's desk with an address in Maastricht written on it. Even though I knew Mrs. Frank had left it on purpose, I pretended to be surprised and horrified and begged Mr. Goldschmidt to burn this incriminating piece of paper. I swore up and down that I knew nothing about your disappearance and that the note had given me an idea. Mr. Goldschmidt, I said, I bet I know what this address refers to. About 6 months ago, a high-ranking officer came to the office. It seems he and Mr. Frank grew up together. He promised to help Mr. Frank if it was ever necessary. As I recall, he was stationed in Maastricht. I think this officer has kept his word and is somehow planning to help them cross over to Belgium and then to Switzerland. There's no harm telling this to any of the friends of the Franks who come asking about them. Of course, you don't need to mention the part about Maastricht. And after that, I left. This is the story most of your friends have been told, because I heard it later from several other people. We thought it was extremely funny, but we laughed even harder when Mr. Van Daan told us that certain people have very vivid imaginations. For example, one family living on our square claimed that they saw all 4 of us riding by on our bikes early in the morning, and another woman was absolutely positive we'd been loaded into some kind of military vehicle in the middle of the night. Yours, Anne. Friday the 21st of August 1942. Dear Kitty, now our secret annex has truly become secret. Because so many of the houses are being searched for hidden bicycles, Mr. Kugler thought it would be better to have a bookcase built in front of the entrance to our hiding place. It swings out on its hinges and opens like a door. Mr. Voskagil did the carpentry work. Mr. Voskagil has been told that the 7 of us are in hiding, and he's been most helpful. Now, whenever we want to go downstairs, we have to duck and then jump. After the first 3 days, we're all walking around with bumps in our foreheads from banging our heads against the low doorway. Then Peter cushioned it by nailing a towel stuffed with wood shavings to the door frame. Let's see if it helps. I'm not doing much schoolwork. I've given myself a holiday till September. Father wants to start giving me lessons then, but we have to buy all the books first. There's little change in our lives here. Peter's hair was washed today, but that's nothing special. Mr. Van Daan and I are always at loggerheads with each other. Mummy always treats me like a baby, which I can't stand. For the rest, things are going better. I don't think Pete has got any nicer. He's an obnoxious boy who lies around on his bed all day, only rousing himself to do a little carpentry work before returning to his nap. What a clot. Mummy gave me another one of her dreadful sermons this morning. We take the opposite view on everything. Daddy's a sweetheart, but he may get cross with me, but it never lasts more than 5 minutes. It's a beautiful day outside, nice and hot, and in spite of everything, we make the most of the weather by lounging on the folding bed in the attic. Yours, Anne. Comment added by Anne on the 21st September 1942. Mr. Van Daan has been nice as pie to me recently. I've said nothing, but I've been enjoying it while it lasts.